Hi, everyone. My name is Susan Moore. I'm the Community Engagement Manager here with the International Institute of Business Analysis. We call it IIBA. We are really excited to have you today. We're going to be talking about building your professional reputation, and we've got a great panel of speakers. This is going to be more of a question and answer kind of a format. So let me give you a little bit of housekeeping because we want to make sure that you also participate in this conversation because we want to know what you want to know about building your reputation. On the line today, I have got three panelists who come from the business analysis profession. And where'd all my notes go? Okay, well, I'm just going to tell you, we've got Shannon Wegner from Apex Systems. She does talent development. Shake your head because I'm doing this blind today. We've got Suzanne Ricci. She is with Computer Coach. She's going to be talking about that. And then we've also got Erica Woods, who works in contract programs, I think, and philanthropy with Apex Systems. So we've got different kinds of representatives today that are going to talk about all of this stuff. So those are the introductions. Now let me give you the housekeeping. We like to keep things interactive. And if you want to talk to each other, use chat for that. We might also post some links in there and some materials that you might be interested in. That's in chat. If you have questions for our speakers, put that in Q&A, and we're going to be taking questions maybe along the way, maybe at the end. If you see a question in there that you are a +1 on, use the upvote because what we'll do is we'll take the questions that have the most upvotes. We'll take those first. Let's see. So let me tell you just a little bit about the International Institute of Business Analysis, if you are not already a member. We're a nonprofit professional organization, and we're serving the growing field of business analysis. We are a global thought leader and a voice of the business analysis community, and we actively support you. So we work with recruiting professionals, we work with academic institutions, chapters, companies all over the world, helping to promote business analysis in organizations. Our vision is to shape the practice of business analysis to achieve better enterprise outcomes. And so when we help you to achieve better outcomes, you do that for your enterprises. So your work is really pretty important. And our mission, we're leading the global business analysis community and professional standards so every person achieves more. Here's that gigantic QR code again. If you are not currently a member and you want to get more information about membership, scan that code. That'll take you over to our membership benefits page. We have got an amazing amount of resources and tools that will help you wherever you are in your career life cycle to achieve whatever your career goals are. Starting your career, growing your career in this profession, or maybe you're changing your career, interested in certification, we've got you covered there. Also, we've got opportunities for networking and community, and we've got access to tons of trends and thought leadership. This is a really busy slide, but what I want you to see is when you become a member of IIBA, you get access to all of these things. And when you go to that membership benefits page, you can read more about this. There's also a series of little short tutorials that tell you more about how you can use all of those things in order to grow your career. Ooh, all right, so many things. I'm going to stop sharing now. There you go. Now we're going to get to the good stuff today. So first, I did a really quick introduction. I don't know if you guys would like to say a couple of words before we get started today. I'll turn it over to Erica first. How about that?
Yeah, perfect. Awesome. It's great to be here for the global IIBA community, and I'm representing Apex Systems. We're the second largest technology-focused staffing and solutions firm, but I also have multiple hats, as does Suzanne, within the community. So really excited to talk about that. I run locally in Tampa a Tech for Good group, which is global. We have groups in a lot of the countries that I saw mentioned. So excited to share a little bit about that. Shannon?
Yeah, thanks, Erica. Really excited to be here with you all. I work at Apex Systems alongside Erica, and I'm our Director of Talent Development. I actually started my career as a technical recruiter as well. So definitely, been a part of this industry and living in this world since I started my career, and have since moved on to oversee all of our learning and development programs for our internal employees, but also we offer a lot of training and development to our technical consultants as well. So that's a big part of what I do, but excited to be here.
Hey everyone, I'm Suzanne Ricci. I am the Director of Education at Computer Coach, where we provide IT and business certification and upskilling training for individuals looking to advance their tech careers, or if they're looking to get into their tech careers. I started my career 22 years ago as a web designer before we were called front-end developers. And I quickly realized that I had a passion for tech, but within that passion, coaching others to get to their, I guess, defined career success. It's something that, as I said, I've done for 22 years. I have really never worked in an industry outside of helping IT professionals get where they want to go. So it's great to be here. I look forward to sharing some of the things I've learned along the way. And as Erica said, I'm pretty active in my community, which is one of the things as you get to know me, you'll know I'm passionate about helping out in my community. I also serve as the network director for WITI Tampa Bay, which is the Women in Technology International, as well as a few other organizations, which I'm sure we'll talk about today. So thanks for having me.
Perfect. We are really so excited to have you guys, because I think that you will all have a perspective that this audience is really going to be interested in, right? Because part of what we do, we are, as business analysis professionals, if we're looking for that opportunity or getting ready for that opportunity, we're kind of interested in what you guys think, how we can be doing better. So let's dive in. First question for you guys, and let's talk about, maybe what is top of mind when we think about building professional reputation. Networks. Who should we be networking with? How do we build that network? And Suzanne, I'm going to turn that over to you, maybe as the first person to answer that.
Sure. So I'm sure several of us today have often heard the quote, "Your network is your net worth," right? And there's a lot that goes into that when we dissect it. I am passionate that professionals, regardless of your industry or your career path, should have a 5-year career plan, right? You should know where it is you want to go. If you know where you want to go, well, then you'll be able to reverse engineer that plan, and you'll be able to work in brand building activities, right? Well, if I want to be a director in, let's say, 5 years, what do I need to be doing now? Where do I need to be networking? Who do I need to be networking with? Who do I need to, be moving from what I call just someone I know to more of a trusted status? Because the truth is as you progress through your career, most of your opportunities are going to come through your network. They're going to come through your friends, your family, people you know. Finding jobs through online methods or opportunities through online methods is really hard, and the statistical probability is very low. I don't want to scare anybody, but your network is incredibly valuable, right? But it's not just about knowing people. It's about really having people trust you. Who are you? And when I am coaching individuals on, let's develop your career brand or let's enhance your professional brand, we talk about, what are your passion pillars? What are you passionate about? What do people know about you? Or what do you want them to know about you? Because the truth is as we progress through our careers, if we don't control what our professional brand is, then we could have brands that maybe we don't want thrown on us, right? So when it comes to networking, I like to diversify my networking opportunities. Something I think that's really interesting that I bring up quite often is every time I'm at a networking event, regardless of the type of event, I give every event 2 tries at the very least. So if I go to an event and I'm like, oh, this was a bad day, I don't just write that networking opportunity, that meetup, that host organization, whatever it is, off. I go back a second time, maybe not right away, but I definitely always go back a second time, because maybe I was having a bad day. Maybe I, wasn't gelling. Maybe the organizer was having a bad day and it wasn't their best event, right? There's a lot that goes into it. I do like to strategically plan out my networking. As I said, I attend a variety of different networking. I try to attend at least 2 virtual networking sessions a week, and I try to attend at least 1 in-person networking session a week. And I know that may seem like a lot, but you know what? That's coffees, that's lunches, that's happy hours. I also host a lot of networking events, which I have found over the years has helped me to not feel so chaotic, right? Not always try to run my schedule. Since I host several events, it allows me to network with individuals coming to me. And I'm happy to answer more specific questions if you have them, Susan.
Well, you made me think of a couple of things, and so when I think about networking, I don't think I took it as seriously as I should have. So your point about especially this virtual world that we live in, and if you're applying for a job, so are tens, hundreds of people applying for that same job. So maybe talk about some of the best practices, right? Because it does sound a little bit like, oh gosh, it sounds like I would have to spend a lot of time, but what other things can you recommend?
Sure. So it doesn't have to take a lot of time. I think at first, like anything, once you get the ball, rolling, it takes a lot of momentum to get it going. But once you get it going and you find, okay, these are the organizations I'd like to go to, this is the coffee I like to go to, because it's really about making sure that you're moving your relationships to a more trusted status. Having 10,000 connections on LinkedIn is great, right? I get a lot of eyeballs on my posts, but that doesn't mean that I have 10,000 people that are going to recommend me to something, right? I probably realistically in my network have about 50 people out of those 10,000 that I could really call and they would say, yes, I know Suzanne, this is, an opportunity for her or whatever it may be. I think as far as best practices go, you want to make sure that following up is key. That is one of the best practices that I see dropped all the time. And you can't take a relationship to a trusted status if you don't follow up. And so a lot of times, and I am guilty of this as well, we'll be out, we'll meet people, and then we never talk to them again. We'll know that we had this instant connection. You know what? This person's working in an organization that I would love to work in, or they have a role that I would love to see myself grow into. I would love to maybe do an informational interview to learn more about it. But we then don't follow up. And so following up is key. I schedule what I call follow-up Fridays, where I time block a component of my schedule on Friday to just follow up. And I don't have a magic number. Maybe it's 5 people, maybe it's 10 people, but I, pick some individuals that maybe I want to either strengthen the relationship with, or those that maybe I haven't talked to in a while. And I will actually send an email, I'll send a text message, maybe I'll pick up the phone and call. And that always goes a really long way. So you're welcome to borrow a follow-up Friday. If you want to do it for an hour, that's fine. If you want to do it for 2 hours, it doesn't matter. As I said, there's no right or wrong. I think when we talk about networking, a conversation without LinkedIn would probably be not a full networking conversation, right?
We'd be kidding ourselves.
Yeah,
right?
we really would. I love LinkedIn. I am a very big LinkedIn fan, but it takes a lot to learn how LinkedIn will work for you, because what I have found in my years of using it is that all 4 of us on this call today could use LinkedIn very differently, but all find some, level of success in it. I get a ton of spam, just like everybody else. I think the number one question I get asked on LinkedIn is it quality or quantity as far as connections go? And, for me, I say that's a very personal decision, but here is my philosophy on that. Erica may not be a quality connection for me. Now, we all know, Erica, you are, so don't anybody take that wrong. But Erica, I have to use somebody on the call, and Erica, I know the best. So Erica may not be a quality connection for me, but she's connected to Shannon, who very well could be my connection, right? So if I have some level of trust with Erica, but I really would like to meet Shannon, who's maybe in an organization that I want to move into. Maybe I need a speaker, something like that. Erica is my connection, right? And so that it's that whole 6 degrees of separation when it comes to LinkedIn. But as I said, I get the spam, I get the shady characters, I get, the weird messages just like everyone else. And I just scroll or delete, or if it becomes really obnoxious, then I will block the person. But I think in my whole time on LinkedIn, I can probably count on one hand the number of times I've had to block someone. So,
those are good tips. When you're right, a lot of the way that we interact with our professional communities is through social media. So Erica, I want to ask you a couple of questions on that social media front. We've talked about building a network with people that do what we do, but what about using social media to find recruiters, to create, kind of that piece of your social media persona as well?
Yeah, well, it's interesting reading some of the questions in the Q&A, because someone said, well, what if I'm content with my career? I am. I don't have a 5-year plan, because the role I'm in now, I love, and I don't want to leave, and I get to manage new programs. So I think it's really helpful to ask yourself, yes, what do I want to do? And think about, well, what are my networking goals? And then essentially, which stakeholders do I want to network with? And that could be just people internally at your organization. Maybe you're active within your team, but you want to join a company committee. So that could be one of your networking goals internally. Externally, maybe it's you could be involved in a local IIBA chapter, but you want to contribute more. That's a 2022 goal, to help IIBA continue to strengthen that network, meet others, but also provide value through that community. Maybe it's integrating two networks. So, maybe you're part of a children's school, a local workforce development nonprofit, another nonprofit that's not related to your discipline, and you want to merge those two networks together by providing value. So again, there's just so many definitions of who could go into your network, and give that some consideration first on who do I want to strengthen or, bring into my network. When it comes to recruiters, which is, it can be a network in of itself that, you could want to initiate with relationships with, especially if you're job searching. So there's a couple key things that I would say about just kind of the recruiters and social media included. First, with recruiters, it's good to prospect a couple good recruiting firms in your area. So even if you just kind of get your Google on, or, just do some searches, talk to some folks, identify a couple organizations, recruiters in your area or recruiting companies, and then don't be shy just about calling in. I know it sounds very basic, but just finding that phone, calling in and saying, hey, I'm a member of the business analysis community. Hey, I just graduated. A couple people are on here. I just graduated. I'm looking to get connected to a recruiter that specializes in business analysis. Is that you? Is that one of your peers? Who can you connect me with? So going that route is really easy, just picking up the phone and calling into a recruiting company and asking to be transferred or connected. I say this all the time, I'm a broken record, but every recruiter lives on LinkedIn. So, just like you're signing up for job alerts, go to that advanced search and target recruiters within a 30-mile radius, scope out some of their profiles, connect with them. Another idea is just say you go to an IIBA chapter meeting. A lot of them are still happening on Zoom or a virtual platform. Or even if, you're going to an event in person, raise your hand or find that chat box. Hey, I'm looking for an opportunity. Who has a recruiter connection they would recommend? Can you drop the profile of that person, their LinkedIn profile, into the chat box? So I guess those are my big ones for just finding and then connecting with people if recruiters are part of your target network right now.
And so as we're thinking about making those connections with recruiters, what are some things we should or maybe should not be doing? If you're looking for us on LinkedIn and we're looking for you, like what are the things that we should do to make sure that we get your attention, and things we should stay away from?
Okay, I'll start with some of my favorite do's. One, take the time, block off 30 minutes and just fill out the profile. One of my favorite things about LinkedIn versus a resume is it does allow you to kind of humanize yourself and expand on some of what I love to call those extracurriculars. And, that could be involvement in a local chapter. It could be, like Suzanne, maybe you're part of Women in Tech or Women Who Code, or another group. So you can add in the groups and associations. You can expand on the conferences you've done. You could add causes you care about, interests. So take the time to really ask yourself, outside of my day job, what am I passionate about? That couldn't be controversial. And then take the time to add to that and make sure you're filling out those spaces. The second, and Suzanne said this kind of when we were, prepping a little bit, and, we'll ask her to expand on it. But, I think about a visual is a picture is worth 1,000 words. Yet when I go to people's profiles, they might have a profile picture and that's it. There is so much more we can do, whether that is a simple word cloud art, visualizing your key experience and tools. So if you look at my LinkedIn profile, it took me 3 minutes. I found free word cloud art because I'm not creative. And I just took the skills that, I think I have that I want to communicate. And I just put that into a visual, added a pop of color to one of Suzanne's other tips. And I added that, think about any awards you've won, any badges that you have. Maybe you have a picture of yourself presenting at a local group, or, even your children, again, your children's school. Add some of that imagery to throughout your profile. And then my last big thing in terms of a do is get recommendations. I understand for a lot of people, it's awkward to ask for recommendations. Suzanne, stressed the 5-year plan. I'm huge on an annual career audit. And so once a year, maybe January, ask yourself, do a makeover, an update of your resume, your LinkedIn profile. And as part of that audit, think about and reflect, who did I really help last year? And ask them real time for a recommendation while it's fresh. And if you truly helped somebody, I love getting recommendation requests from people who, I want to write something for. It brightens my day, just like writing a thank you note. So don't feel bad about it, but those are the types of things you can have encompassed on your profile that can really speak to your credibility.
Those are all really excellent tips. And so as I'm hearing what you're saying, really that LinkedIn profile should be you authentically. So, what you've done, and a little bit about who you are, because I think people want to know that you're more than just an electronic profile somewhere, but that there's a human being behind that. Now, you talked about a couple of things that I'll categorize as social proof. And Shannon, I know you've done a lot of research around this. So I've got 2 questions for you. Social proof, what is it? 2, how do you do it?
Yeah, no, really good questions. I think, social proof is when you think of yourself as a consumer, right? Where we all go online and read product reviews before we purchase something. We all are kind of researchers in that way, or you ask friends and family about something, before you go and try it out yourself. It's similar in that way, right? So as part of your personal brand, it's having a way that someone can go and verify your achievements or look at some of those credentials and your skills and your professional journey that you bring to the table. So in today's digital world, a lot of that happens through LinkedIn or other social media sites. Twitter, you might have a digital resume or personal website. So lots of different ways where that social proofing can happen. And one of the new things I would say is digital badging that you're probably hearing talked about more across all of your networks. And so I think Erica hit on that as being, really good component to include in your LinkedIn profile for a couple of reasons. A lot of great benefits, but I think one, they're visual, right? So Suzanne, and we were talking about this before the call, but there's a lot now where information overload, especially on LinkedIn. So it catches your attention. They're verifiable. So someone can actually interact with that digital badge and click on it and see, what did you achieve? When did you achieve it? What did it take to get this achievement? So they can really verify that information. And they're portable. So for you all, your learning experiences, both formal and informal, they're happening probably across a multitude of platforms, right? That's not all happening in one place over the course of your career. So you can really pull all of that together because they are portable, and be able to tell that full professional story with those badges. So a lot of benefits, to using that, I think, to show your credibility and what skills you bring to the table.
And IIBA has had badges for the certifications for a number of years, and it's always great when we see members of our community sharing those, because everybody jumps right in, congratulations, and it's a great way to start a conversation about, well, tell me what you did, tell me what this is about. But just recently, like 2 weeks ago, we now have a IIBA member badge. So when you join IIBA, you get a badge because making a commitment in your career by joining a professional association, it says something about who you are and what you represent. In fact, as people have been sharing it, they've also been using the hashtag I mean business, which has been fun. It's been a fun little hashtag to use, because that is why people share badges. They want to be proud of their achievements and have others ask them about that. So it's a great way. So there's my plug about the badges. So if you're a member, make sure you share your IIBA member badge. So let's see. And oh my gosh, we have got some really great questions going on. So a lot of information. You guys are so awesome with your questions. But let me talk about this, kind of keeping with that social proof, but I want to talk about volunteering a little bit before we take questions. So this question, I think Erica or Suzanne, or maybe both of you, what is the importance of volunteering to helping you build that professional reputation?
Yeah. Suzanne, do you want to start with this one?
I mean, sure. We talked about social proofing today, right? We talked about networking, and volunteering kind of hits both of those key, I guess, traits in building your professional brand. So volunteering, one, is not only good for your heart, but it is actually good for your brand as well. And so when I wrote down some notes about volunteering, because it's something that once you get involved in it, it feels so good that you just keep doing it. So I wanted to make sure that I remembered some really key things that I wanted to pass on today. So there's, for me, 2 types of volunteering, and Erica, feel free to chime in with anything that you, so for me, there's skill building and there's building your network. Of course, there's always giving back. So when it comes to volunteering, that is the conversation, right? But when we get down to professional branding with volunteering, I look at volunteering for skill building opportunities or for building my network. And when I talk about volunteering opportunities, there's generally, there's a few different types of opportunities, right? We can volunteer ongoing at, let's just say, the Humane Society. Maybe the Humane Society has something going on and they need somebody with our skills, or as I talked about earlier, if we have that plan on what's our 5-year plan, where do we want to go? What skills do we need to add on along the way? Maybe we need to add on more project management skills, right? And as we are talking to the Humane Society to volunteer, we realize, oh, you know what? They're redoing their website or something like that. And that's a project that I can help them out with on a volunteer basis, which will help me build skills professionally. There's a website out there called Volunteer Match. I can drop it in chat. It's just one way that you can find. It's volunteermatch.org, and it's just one way you can find opportunities to volunteer in what I call skill building areas. And then I do a lot of conference-based volunteering, giving back to my community. We are incredibly blessed in Tampa Bay that we have a lot of tech conferences that go on in Tampa Bay, both national conferences and then just more on the local level. And I try to get involved with all of them. I have kind of trended towards being the volunteer coordinator, which for me, as far as a networking opportunity, lets me meet every other volunteer, right? Because I'm coordinating them. That volunteering at conferences is a great way to build your brand and, you know, some of the skills that you're looking to develop, because as a volunteer, people will talk to you at the conference. It's not awkward, right? It's easy to go up to someone and say, hey, how's your day going? And you have a volunteer shirt on and they're like, oh, wait, safe person, I can talk to this person. So I love conference-based volunteering. And then volunteering in a variety of different organizations and meetups. I run 3 different meetups in the Tampa Bay area. Due to the pandemic, they are also all online now. So now I say they started as Tampa Bay meetups, but now they're kind of international meetups. And I'm also involved in some of the organizations. Like I said earlier, I'm the network director for WITI Tampa Bay. Once I was involved in WITI, the Women in Technology International, the local chapter, for a couple of years, I realized, you know what, taking a leadership role in this will really help me develop some soft skills that I would love to develop even better. And, you know, there's a big conversation out there in the hiring world on hard skills versus soft skills, right? Employers are looking for soft skills, and a lot of volunteer opportunities give you the opportunity to develop soft skills and showcase them. Volunteering also gives you an awesome opportunity to build references, because most of the time you're volunteering for free. So people will write you a recommendation on LinkedIn, which recommendations on LinkedIn, to echo what Erica said earlier, are so important. I have friends and customers that will get told, I'm calling you because you had 30 recommendations and I just wanted to meet you. Like, who has 30 recommendations on LinkedIn? So volunteering gives you the opportunity to ask people for recommendations, and they're likely to write you one. Erica, do you have anything to add?
You know, it's so interesting to hear you talk about the benefits first, and, you know, going back to what somebody shared in the Q&A, you know, it was funny meeting somebody in Tampa that runs a group, and he shared with me that one of the reasons he stepped up to be an organizer was because he has severe social anxiety, but he knew he needed to get over that. And so, kind of like the boat I was in initially, I felt uncomfortable going to networking events. I remember going to my first user group meeting, you know, prior to Meetup back in 2007, and just, I don't remember much of it, except that I was so terrified. And one of the ways, you know, I got over it was to help, right? I needed to feel like I was contributing. That helped with my imposter syndrome. And, you know, when he shared this with me, and it goes back to your point and aligns with, there's so many skills that you can get, whether that's helping with that social anxiety, it's building confidence. One of my favorite events that I did, a Tech for Good event, I did it in partnership with the cybersecurity team at one of the organizations we work with, you know, in Florida. And he's like, you know, one of the reasons I want to put on this event, it's not just to benefit, you know, small businesses and nonprofits, but I want my team to accomplish something good together. And so I think about what people need in life right now. It's more fulfillment. You know, as we continue to talk about the Great Resignation, even, and the Great Reimagination, what opportunities as a leader, or could you suggest to your leadership where you're doing something good together? But one of the big benefits that he wanted is, he's like, I want my team to not only accomplish something together for good for the community, but I want them to work on their soft skills. I want them to practice, you know, speaking to non-technical individuals. And then one of the side benefits, consequences, is one of his newer team members who was new to cybersecurity. She said that that event did wonders for her confidence. So I think about all the millions of benefits. It's fulfilling, it's great for team rapport and camaraderie, it's great for, skill building. It's great for, again, if you're trying to build your portfolio, build your experience, give yourself extra content for your LinkedIn profile and your resume. There's so many benefits of doing it. And there's so much that exists out there. I'll give one more quick example. Say you're trying to work on your public speaking abilities or your ability to facilitate meetings. Well, grab somebody in your group, on your team, in your local IIBA chapter that has that shared goal with you, and put together a presentation for a local workforce development nonprofit, or for your IIBA chapter, or for a conference or another meetup group. Again, there's just so many benefits. I could go on about the benefits all day.
I just want to speak up for the introverts in the audience. I am one. That volunteering, I know that it can sound like, oh my gosh, you know what I mean? I've got to be in a room with a bunch of people that I don't know and I've got to talk to them. And the answer is you need to be able to work through that. Admittedly, being an introvert, it can be a little bit of an energy zapper. However, what we do as business analysis professionals is a relationship business. We've got to be able to interview folks, to be able to talk to people that we've never talked to before, build relationships and trust. And really the way that we can do that, you may not have an opportunity to do that in organizations, but a way that you can do that and lower the panic barrier is to do that through networking, through volunteering, through being at events where you are having a reason to talk to someone. Because I think I don't, Eric or Suzanne, one of you said having a reason to talk to someone will make it easier for you to be able to have that conversation. And these are skills that if you can build them somewhere, they will be immediately transferable to the work that you do in business analysis. Because let's face it, we don't always have great stakeholders that are willing to talk to us. So we've got to use every skill in our toolbox in order to do that. So I think that's a really great point about how volunteering can fit that in. And I also listed, you guys have talked about some places that people can volunteer. IIBA chapters always are looking for volunteers for board of director positions, for event positions. Many of those have those positions posted on their websites, because every IIBA chapter has a website, or they've got a contact person that you can reach out to. We have also got some volunteer opportunities at our global office, not as many, and they tend to be, but they are remote, but they do tend to be more like we're doing a lot of foreign language translation work, and we're doing some review opportunities. But if you go out there, there is the opportunity for you to just express interest in volunteering with IIBA. And as new things come up, we'll notify you so that you can decide if you want to do that. In volunteering, there's a whole section on LinkedIn profiles where you can put all of your volunteer experience. And I bet you guys take a look at that as you are looking for candidates. What are they doing outside of that? Oh, Suzanne, you mentioned Toastmasters. I know I keep plugging IIBA chapters, but that's kind of what I do. Some of our IIBA chapters actually have connections with Toastmasters organizations in their area. IIBA chapters, they're not just doing like technique events and things like that, but they're also helping to build soft skills, personal skills. So they really do support their local business analysis community. Goodness. Let's see. I feel like we should take some questions because, gosh, this group has got tons of questions, and I know you guys have been peeking in Q&A. Let's see. I am just going to start with the top one here. The best way to start an IT BA career. Thinking about some of these things. How about I'll just call out Suzanne.
Sure. And I would love, Susan, to circle back to just some actual tangible tips for networking for introverts. So if we have time at the end,
That's
because
great. Yeah.
as someone who has coached thousands of IT and tech adjacent professionals in 22 years, I've had my fair share of introverts. Okay.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So the best way is research. If you are starting your career, you have to do research. And so there's also a question in the question here about how do we know what skills? So this goes along with my doing research. One of the things I love about LinkedIn, like LinkedIn Premium, you can do this with a free 30-day trial, is if you go on LinkedIn Premium and you search for the types of jobs you're looking for, it will give you the top 10 skills for that particular job. I like to have my customers who I coach do this 10, 15, 20 times on roles that they're looking for, which then you'll take those skills, drop them in an Excel spreadsheet. And then at the end, when you have however many jobs you're looking at, 10, 15, 20, you'll be able to see all the skills that are in common. So if 15 of the roles say you need Excel, well, then there you have it. You probably need Excel, right? So that's one way to know what skills. But the best way for me, as far as starting an IT career or a BA career, research. Make sure you understand what are the different job roles. What are the job titles? Job titles drive me crazy nowadays because they, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, the job titles were the same across every company. That is not the case anymore. So you really need to understand what are the tasks that you'll be doing, and then find job titles that are associated to that, because you may open up your opportunities tremendously with different types of job titles. And then really looking at if you have anybody in your network that maybe has this particular career. There were some questions about informational interviews. When I talk about informational interviews, I like for candidates who are looking to branch off into careers, or if they know I want to be, at this particular career in 5 years, to find individuals who have that career and to ask them, can I talk to you about what you do? What hard skills, what soft skills do they have? How did they get to their role? That's what I consider an informational interview. Before you start your career, doing informational interviews will help you really get a real world perspective of what is this career like. I'm sure we've all heard several times, we meet people that go into the medical field, and then they drop out saying, I didn't like blood. And it's like, well, how did you miss that one, right? So we can avoid all that by doing the research and doing informational interviews, and then doing that task in LinkedIn to find the skills that are important for those particular roles.
And any other
One thing
thoughts
I would
on
just
that?
add on there. I was going to say one thing I would add on there, just coming from the technical recruiter side of things. I saw a couple of questions there too. Is when you're starting out early on, is really connect with a recruiter that specializes in that particular area, and use them as a resource as well. Ask similar questions, right? What are hiring managers looking for right now? What do these types of interviews look and feel like, right? So if you're early on and trying to get into that field, they can give you some insight into the interviewing so you can be more prepared. Think about applying to things even if you don't have all of the skills, right? So a lot of us are afraid to apply if we don't fit 100% of the job description. When you're starting out, I would say go for 60%, right? Because you're going to get some experience, even if you don't get the job, just by simply going through the process and going through the interview, and learning about, again, the format and structure of those things is going to better prepare you. So I would say really try to establish a strong relationship with the recruiter early on, and you can learn a lot through that relationship.
That's a great idea. Using that recruiter as kind of giving you some intel about how to prepare. Erica, I don't know if you've got a thought, but I was going to ask you. There's a question I think that you'd like to answer about resumes.
Yeah, and I'll say one more. How can you get the skills that you'll need? Again, going back to volunteerism. So I'll use an example. So I probably plan 15 at this point. What's called a charity hackathon, where we bring together project managers, business analysts, website developers to create solutions, websites, databases for nonprofits. My last one that I did over Zoom, my first virtual one last October, we had a couple people that are in the shoes of some of the people in the room, right? We had senior people that just wanted to contribute and help, organizations. And we had 4 or 5 people that were trying to break in and build their skills. one of those was an aspiring business analyst. And so I partnered that person with a lead business analyst to capture all the requirements, put together the requirements documentation for one of the nonprofit projects. After the event was over, this person did absolutely amazing. I said, I got their resume. I was like, hey, what you did for this project is not on your resume. So I would encourage you to have that represented on your resume. And two, ask the nonprofit as well as the lead business analyst for a LinkedIn recommendation. So then you get social proof, testimonials, which helps their confidence. And it also helps them answer, because they're like, I always struggle with the tell me about your strengths interview question. Well, take what they wrote about you, right? And then share that as your answer. And then lastly, I encouraged them to write a LinkedIn publication around what I learned from acting as a business analyst. So hopefully some of the dots are starting to connect. But again, there's just so many different things you can do for local groups, associations. There's so many community events out there. Cool. So for resumes, what's the question you want me to answer on that one, Susan?
So the question for you is, what does a resume look like today? This person, it's been a long time, and any tips? You know, we're tapping into your recruiting expertise here. So what should people be putting in resumes these days?
Yeah, and Suzanne, if you want to, I think you've got some online templates, anything you want to drop in from Computer Coach in there. First and foremost, we still get a lot of questions about length. Depending on your experience, I would focus on the last 8 to 10 years. I would only include the experience you have that is relevant for where you would like to go. Keep it under 3 pages for sure. I love using a resume template or a resume builder. They ask you a guided line of questions. So live career, job scan, use something of that nature. And then every resume, each job that you've had should answer a couple key questions. What are the projects, initiatives, programs that I was a part of? What was the goal of each of those? What were my specific contributions? Warrants a couple bullet points. What are the tools, technologies, methodologies that I utilized? And then last but not least, what was the impact, the value, the ROI that resulted? It could be time saved, it could be, monetary, but just really thinking about what's the value that was provided to this team, this organization, whatever stakeholder groups.
Suzanne, did you want to add anything to that? Those are some pretty good tips.
Yeah. So I think whenever you talk about resume, right, it comes down to, are you using your resume to send directly to a person because you've been referred or you have a contact, or are you going online through an applicant tracking system? That for me is 2 very different conversations. A job description. So let's talk about the applicant tracking systems, because I saw somebody say I applied through LinkedIn and I haven't gotten any traction. Okay. This is a very deep conversation, but when people say to me, can you review my resume? The very first thing I do is no, because a resume today, if you are applying online, needs to match the job description. And I don't mean I'm not saying like copy and paste. I'm saying it needs to articulate, why are you qualified for the job if I compare it to the job description? So the days of writing one resume that kind of fits everything I do are a little gone. Now, that type of resume is great if you have a personal referral or if you know somebody in the organization, which is where we started our conversation with your network, right? But for me, if you are applying online, you statistically have a 3.4% chance of landing a job through an online job board. I told you earlier, it was frighteningly low. It is very low. I spend a lot of time studying applicant tracking systems because of what I do. I have interviewed developers who create applicant tracking systems. So to have a very quick conversation about it, they vary tremendously. And when I say tremendously, I mean from free to multi-million-dollar implementations. From the job seeker perspective, we don't really know what we're going to get. So when someone says, what should my resume look like? Your resume should read that you are qualified for the job according to the job description. So that means if you have sales experience and it's not included in the job description, I don't need to know about your sales experience. When someone says, how long should my resume be? If you are applying online, the answer is no more than 1,000 words. You have to remember, people scan. Another just quick tip is you want to make sure that you have quantifiable achievement on your resume, numbers, percentages, dollar signs. What if I read your resume? What can I expect of you as an employee? That is kind of my quick tips, but we could have a 3-hour conversation between Erica and I on what should a resume look like.
Are there hacks? Are there ways that you can get some help with any of these applicant tracking systems? Are tools out there or something like that that we could be using?
So I know Erica brought up JobScan. This is going to be one of the few times Erica and I don't agree on something. I don't actually like JobScan, but that's what we're here, right?
Right.
I really love, so the technique that I told you about earlier, looking at LinkedIn, if you have LinkedIn Premium, looking at the skills, the top 10 skills they've listed for each particular job, incorporating those skills into your resume. I think you're going to get further with that than with JobScan. One thing I will tell you is ATSs at this point, if you have too many keywords in, they can put you in the unqualified category. Last time I was researching, statistically, 25% of resumes going through an applicant tracking system get human eyeballs on them. So 75% right off the bat, you're going into the unqualified section. When I talk to talent acquisition professionals and I say, what are the key things? A lot of them are the knockout questions. Now, some companies have gone away from using knockout questions. Some companies have not. This is something I come across all the time. Suzanne, the knockout question asked if I had a master's degree. I said no, but I am more qualified than anybody with a master's degree. I believe you. You do not need to prove that to me. But if it said must have a master's degree on the job description and you don't, then you were automatically put into the unqualified category. For me, that doesn't mean you can't go after the job. For me, that means you need what we call a backdoor approach. The best way to get past an applicant tracking system is to avoid an applicant tracking system. And if you are in the job seeker status right now, you are actively looking for a job, you should always know the companies that you are applying for and want to work for. So when I coach my customers, when you're on a networking event and you're job seeking, I want to hear something like, hi, I'm Suzanne Ricci. I'm a business analyst. And today I am looking for connections in Chase, Citi, or Raymond James. If anybody has a connection in one of those organizations, I would love the referral. And if my network can help you, please don't hesitate to reach out. Why? Because now, if I have recruiters on the call, they're like, oh, we place at Ray J. Hold on, because remember, recruiters will sometimes place individuals in organizations that they may not have a job description or a listing for, just to win favor with that organization, right? Erica, Shannon, sometimes they'll just place people without getting the commission. And in addition to that, anyone else on the call, you could very well be sitting on the call or in the room with someone who says, oh, my husband's the HR director, Raymond James. He always is looking for people. So you never know. If you know what you're looking for, then people can help you. If you just say, I'm a business analyst looking for a next opportunity, that's overwhelming for me to try to help you.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that helps.
I think that's okay. So I sort of asked that question because I could tell that was a controversial topic. But I think ultimately, with those applicant tracking system hack kind of software, you're right. I think a lot of organizations are realizing that that folks are gaming the system, and so while they can be helpful in helping you craft that resume, ultimately you want to be able to speak for your own experience in your own words. And so sometimes those things like JobScan, they can get you into trouble because you can just be like a keyword generator, which doesn't really represent who you are. So let's see. Next question here. Goodness, we've got so many questions. I feel like we've got a couple of questions around LinkedIn sections to make sure that get filled out. What's the best use of LinkedIn? Let's see. Trying to see. It seems like there were a couple of these.
I can start with that, Susan. I
yeah.
mean, with LinkedIn, make sure you're maximizing your tagline, right? What people see initially about you. So make sure that you've got that filled out as kind of your 10-second elevator pitch, if you will, your picture, your background photo, right? Again, picture's worth 1,000 words. Utilize your summary and make sure that summary really is your 30-second professional elevator pitch. Start to recognize, the buzzwords of responsibilities, and I added in the trends and from that what we're seeing, the top 3 skill sets in demand for BAs right now. So make sure the tools and technologies, things like Jira, Trello, all those tools are mentioned. The different agile flavors that you work with are represented. And then you can have a couple sentences per job description, but just pay attention again to the recommendations. If you have any assessments that you can take, that stuff's good. Suzanne, what else do you top 2 to 3 things that people should fill out?
Yeah, so when it comes to LinkedIn, remember, LinkedIn loves users who use LinkedIn. And so part of LinkedIn is you can have a phenomenal profile, but if you're not getting served up into the search results, it doesn't matter, right? So part of that is LinkedIn loves users who use LinkedIn. LinkedIn is probably one of the topics that I teach the most on, and LinkedIn has an entire platform called LinkedIn Recruiter that companies will pay thousands of dollars a year so that their recruiters can have access to the entire LinkedIn database. LinkedIn has a vested interest of serving up complete profiles, right? So make sure you're utilizing the new features like the pronunciation of your name, your gender pronouns, add a cover story, which is a 30-second video clip of who you are. I forget what the stat that I read, but recruiters love seeing videos of individuals, right? It showcases your personality. Try to be active on LinkedIn if you can, if you're comfortable with that, because only about 3 million people a week post content on LinkedIn, which means it's a great way to get eyeballs. When I say use all the features you can, get as many recommendations, add your digital badges, make sure you're featuring your posts in both your about section, but also then feature media for each job that you've held, even if you have to recreate something that showcases what you did at that job. Because here's the truth, the longer you can keep me on your profile, the less time I'm on somebody else's profile. And that's important. So in LinkedIn, I like to do an about section that always has a skills list. Yes, you want to have 50 skills, because the skills section on LinkedIn is really important, because in LinkedIn Recruiter, when I go and say I need somebody with Jira, Tableau, SQL, I'm picking those predefined defaults. Those are searching your skills section and serving up results that way. But the skills section in LinkedIn is something people set and forget. They never go back to it. So put 50 skills. Go back to that tip I gave you about looking on LinkedIn for the top 10 skills for 15, 20 jobs. Make sure those skills are there. Make sure you have the skills for the jobs you want, not only the jobs that you had. Really important.
So I'm going to end with this. We have just about a minute left. I know, we've been talking about becoming IIBA members for business analysis professionals. It is a way for you to be able to network, be part of chapters, grow your career. You can do all of that. But this question is to recruiters. Do you think recruiters should become members of IIBA? If you are recruiting in this community, does it differentiate you from maybe other technical recruiters that aren't members?
100%.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's great to hear. And I think if you're a manager and you are looking for BA professionals, I think being a member also helps, because we know plenty of BAs at IIBA, and so that's so it really can help to expand your network, particularly if you yourself as a manager did not have a business analysis background. So my goodness, it's the top of the hour. We do still have tons of questions. I'm going to wrap it up. We will send out the link to the recording. I'm going to try to grab all of these fantastic links that you guys have shared, because there's been a lot of interest. And I'm just going to put a little teaser out there. we're going to be doing a couple more of these sessions. They'll be interactive. They're going to happen later in the year. Check our webinars page. So go to iiba.org webinars. We don't have them posted just yet, but things like resume skills, interviewing, those are coming up for our members. They will be member exclusive, so it pays to be a member. Okay, guys. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. Suzanne, Erica, Shannon, thanks so much for your participation. For everybody on the call, thank you. Thank you for your engagement today. Great questions. Thanks, everyone. See you soon.